right, we got the schedule. We know the conditions, the opponents, the whens, the where, the why, and how. We don't know the end result, but by looking at this schedule, you can clearly see it's set up for us that we better have success early, because as we get to the middle part of the schedule, and certainly at the end, it is going to be very, very difficult. I'll break it down week by week. The Dolphins are going to have to prove to be a very good team. Now, there's mitigating factors, Chubb and Phillips. When are they coming in? I mean, we drafted Kamara, we drafted Chop, but guys, they're rookies. It takes a little while. So we have to get these young guys to have success. We've got to get wins early because if we don't, it could be a big step back. But if we can get those early wins and then Chubb and Phillips can come back and start getting healthy, then maybe some of these tough games can start turning towards our side and we could see a very good season. And obviously, it's about postseason. We've been doing this, however you want to look at it. The guys in charge have either been 2016 or 2019. Certainly, I could see how some people want to say, hey, you know what? 24 is a year. I want to see success, but I kind of understand if it doesn't happen now. But 25 has got to be the year. So these next 2 years are going to be critical. I believe we had enough capital. We've marinated the system. McDaniel's in his third year. Tua is in his third year of the system. We should have success if we're built right. But I can kind of understand if you want to give it a push to next year. But certainly by next year, it's got to be, okay, either you've gone to the conference championship, or we're really not where we need to be, and the people running us aren't who we need them to be either. But if we can get success this year, and then you get all the picks next year, it should be a big hope for us. So anyway, I'm going to get into this schedule. And, when you look at it right away, clearly, like I said, the front is a little bit easier. The back end is tough, but it's very tough for a bunch of different reasons. And it's a lot of physical teams. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 12 physical teams. I mean, by physical, I mean they like to run the football. They've got defenses that are going to punch you in the face. So it's going to be, health is going to be paramount because, guys, remember, before I get into this stuff, we're dealing with humans, human bodies. It's not blips on a screen. It's not just stats. And the human body, at a certain point, it wants to do something, but it can't. And so there's an element of skill and talent, but then there's also the bludgeoning that goes on and the brutality and the ability to survive it and get through it. And this is going to be a very, very, depth is going to play a major role for the Dolphins. Maybe we don't get the injury bug. And then we've brought a bunch of different players in here to bring depth at many different positions, although DI and OL is not one of them. Although I like the OL depth a little bit. Not too high on the starting talent. But so this is going to be a very physical game. And the sad part for us is we get an early bye. I don't like early buys. There's some real nice... We get a little breaks early on. Then we get the bye week 6. And I guess it could be good because it might push... Chubb and Phillips, giving them a little bit more time to get themselves ready, a week or two more maybe, so they can be, because if it gets later, then you're wasting when they're pulling themselves together. So maybe they can get a little bit of rest in between here and get themselves charged. But when you get to these last couple of games, it is brutal. Anyway, let me get into it. Week 1. We only got 2 really Sun games, 1 p.m. games at home. They're going to fry the opponent. We can really say we're taking care of home field advantage. The sad part is that last year we had home field advantage against the Bills, and from what I'm told, I wasn't there. There was just the home field from the noise standpoint wasn't there for us. So the only one that we could really depend on, sadly, is the Sun. And so it's really only 2 games, but at least Jacksonville is a tough team. They're a physical team. Then I think that we have the edge on them as far as talent, but we're playing them at home. We're playing them in the Sun. Week 1, we can prep for them. I got it as a win. It's a tough team, which is a negative for us. It's a home game, which is good for us, and it's got a lot of heat, which is good for us. But they're kind of used to it a little bit, so it mitigates it just a little bit. But, man, sitting in that sun, I think even if you're from Jacksonville, you're going to be very sorrowful. So I got to win for week 1. Week 2, obviously, we play in Buffalo on Thursday Night Football. It's a short week for both teams, but it's a night game. It takes that sun out of there. And the Bills, they're on a short week, but they're playing the Cardinals at home. And that's a team I think they're going to beat, and it's not going to be a real stressor game. So it's mitigated. The whole thing's kind of mitigated. I do think, we should win. We're home. We got to be able to beat Buffalo. This is like week 2 is a fork in the road game. If we win this game, it really is going to set us up. If we lose, it's going to be very, very tough pill to swallow. I'm undecided right now. I got to see how the Bills are doing. I got to see what we're about. I want to say we're going to win, but I feel like I'm a homer, so I'm going to say undecided. But we should win that one if we're built right. Then week 3, we're going to Seattle. Okay, I'm leaning towards a win on it. It's not an easy. Seattle's not easy. They're going against Pats away, and then they got to travel back, and so that's a lot of travel for them. We're going to be on a mini bye, so I like that because that's a physical game. That's a physical team, and so our bye is going to be a little bit more rested, a little bit more put together than Seattle, who's got a lot of traveling, but that stadium is so loud, broke records, and we love to do our motion. I'm a little concerned that all the motion, the communication could cause some problems, but I still think no matter what, it's a win. It should be a win for us. Then we got a Monday Night Football game against Tennessee. It's home, but again, we're not getting the sun. We're going to have plenty of rest. They're going to be playing home against Green Bay. It's a physical game, so they'll be a little beat up. We should be rested, we have, it sucks that they're not going to be in the sun, and they're going to be rested too, but we lost to them last year, but that was something bizarro thing, that 14-point or whatever it was swing within 2-3 minutes. Ridiculous. I've got us leaning towards a win, but that's not going to be an easy game. I wish we had the sun to kind of suck up some of their strength because they're very physical. We didn't have Simmons last time. They're going to have Sweat and Simmons. They've done really well in the draft. They did well in free agency. This is going to be a real tough game, but we're home. We've got, and prime time. If we lose this one, that is going to be terrible. So, but I got us leaning towards a win, although it could be very, very scary. Vrabel's not there, so it's a new system. There's that too. I might be leaning towards, undecided. But then we go week 5. We're away to New England, but that's a young quarterback. They're playing San Francisco away, so they're coming from West Coast to East Coast. Short week, young quarterback. It's a physical game and a physical team, but I got us winning. So we should, at this point, easily be 4-1. If we're now 4-1, I think it's very conservative. 5-0, that is great. Then we get the bye. Seems so early. It feels so early, especially when I go through the rest of these weeks. Week 7, we're heading to Indianapolis. Indianapolis is away against Tennessee. Physical game. We got the bye. It's a young quarterback coming off season-ending injury. We get the bye. Like I said, it's got to be a win. That's just got to be a win. And a brother who watches, man, he's going through a lot of challenges, and he says this is one of the few games he can get to. He's so happy. We've got to get this win. If we don't get a win, forget it. But I don't see how we can lose it. It just so really at this stage we should be about 5-1 or 6-0, and then now we go home. We face Arizona. They're playing the Chargers at home. Then they come to us. The Heat. They're kind of used to the Heat. It's going to be a 1 p.m. game. They're going to be fried. They're not a good team. They're used to the heat, but it's dry heat. This has got to be a big win for us. And so when you look at this schedule, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6-1, I think, is where we should be at. 6-1. And then it starts a pretty, I think, a very tough run. But again, champions, they don't wilt or melt or complain about challenges. The challenges make them stronger. And this is where we're going to see McDaniel, Greer, the Tua, this offense, what they're all about. You're 6-1, let's say, or even 7-0. We could beat the Bills. That's unbelievable. And you cannot have another collapse. But the schedule is set up for difficulty. So anyway, so then we travel to the Buffalo. They're away against Seattle, so they got to come all the way back. And that's not good for them. It's 1 p.m., so it's early enough not to get terrible weather. So while I didn't like they didn't get that roasted in the sun, they kind of made that away game against them early enough where bad weather's not going to affect us. So I think that's fair. I don't think it's unfair at all. I think it's well balanced in that sense. But Buffalo is tough at home. We haven't beaten them there. I got it for a loss. I'm hoping it could be obviously a win. If it's close, then that's a moral victory. If you're 1, 2, 3, 6-1 or whatever. So you'll be 6-2 at this point. And then you got to go away again after a tough game, and you head to the West Coast and you go against the Rams. You get a little bit of a rest because it's a Monday night game, which is nice. So the bodies are going to be rested a little bit more. They're going against the Rams, who played away at Seattle. It's not a big trip for them. I'm leaning towards a loss. This Rams team is a good team. They can put points on. They're still good, even though I don't have Aaron Donald. I could see us going towards a win. I could see it being undecided. But Stafford is good. And I don't know where we're going to be at. Will Chubb and Will Phillips be where they need to be? If they're really doing well, the offensive line of the Rams is really good, but you've got to get your pressure. It's Monday Night Football. I don't know. I guess maybe I could be undecided, but I'm sort of leaning towards a loss. So you could see a small step back to a 6-3 or, maybe a 7-2. And then you come home and you're playing the Vegas Raiders, 1 p.m. The heat's going to be diminished. It's still going to be there. It's not going to be as potent, but they're coming off a bye. I think they're going to be a little bit tougher. I'm wondering, again, is Phillips and Chubb going to be there to take advantage of the OL? It's still not where it needs to be. We'll see. It's Wilkins' return, though. Wilkins is used to the heat. Wilkins is going to play out of his mind. This offensive line that we got is going to be very, very interesting to see. Wilkins is going to want to make us pay. But even though they're on a bye, I think we're going to win this one, but it's going to be a very physical game. Likely a close game, and it's going to kind of give us some dings. I think we're going to win. So that would be, we could be, 7-3 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7-3, or maybe 8-2 at this stage. And then thankfully we go on another easy game. We get, New England at home. They're coming against the Chargers at home. We'll have some home field advantage with the Heat, but we're going to beat them. There's no way we can. So you're talking 8-3. I had to do a quick counting. 8-3 or 9-2. I mean, everything can happen, but then it's really going to get hard. Then we have the Thanksgiving week game, short week. Now, they're going to be playing home against San Fran, Green Bay, so they're going to be a little beat up, but they're at home. We got a short weekend, and we got to go on the road. It could be a little ugly. I don't think it's going to be terrible. I'm undecided on this because Green Bay, they're a good team, but they're not as good as where they're going to, because they're home, they're going to beat us unless it's very bad weather. The weather is going to be a real determinant for me. They've got some good components on our offensive line. I love Zach Tom, but that offensive line isn't what it used to be unless they see some guys step up. I'm undecided on this one. And then we got the home game against the Jets, 1 p.m., but the heat's going to be a little diminished. They're going to be home against Seattle. Physical games. They're going to come in a little bit beat up, but then so are we. But we've got a little bit of a longer week. I'm undecided, but I'm kind of leaning towards a win here. But then we go to Houston, and they're coming off a bye. They're going to be very rested. I'm leaning towards a loss. I don't say a loss because I'm not really big on their offensive line. And Chubb and Phillips could be, you could have a healthy Chubb, you could have a healthy Phillips, along with a Chop and Kamara who's got his rest. And that would be a very potent way to get after this Houston offense. To get after Stroud. So I'm leaning towards a loss, but I could see a victory here. I don't know. It's going to be tough. We got to see where we're at as far as our pressures and how Weaver's doing. But then we're going to San Fran home. It's going to be 425. They're not going to get the heat. It's going to be a little bit of a factor, but not a terrible factor. But they're coming off a Thursday night game, so they're going to be rested. I'm leaning towards a loss. That's a tough team. They just went to the Super Bowl. I don't think we're going to win that one. I should say a loss, but we're home. I don't know. That's going to be a very tough one. And then we got to go to Cleveland, who's going to be they're coming off a Thursday night game against the Bengals. Going to be away, but it's Thursday night game. So they're going to be rested. We're going to their house. It's going to be cold. Could be snowy. I'm leaning towards a loss. And then we've got Jets away. It's unknown what time it's going to be, but it's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. We're going to have to travel. It's a little bit of a shorter time. It's a Sunday night game to get to here. So when you start looking at that, you start looking at the Green Bay from Thanksgiving, then the Jets at home, which is not going to be easy. Then you got Houston on the road, San Fran home, but not in the sun. Rested. Then you got Cleveland away in the cold, rested. And then you got the Jets. That is going to be what it comes down to. That's, Green Bay to the Jets game is going to make or break this season. And if we lose some of these games that we should win, it's going to be very, very tough. But we could be in a similar position as last year where we got, 7 to 9 wins. Things are looking good. And then we go into the meat grinder. And our offensive line, our interior defense, going to be critical to stop the run against Green Bay, Jets, Houston, San Fran, Cleveland, and then the Jets again. Our run defense, our ability to not get too injured, our depth, our ability to play in cold and bad weather, it's going to be tested. The physicality is really dialed up to 12 on this one. So I don't know. We're going to find out what we're made of. We're going to find out without a doubt. I got us winning between 9 and 11 wins when all's said and done. There's some ones that I think are undecided. We're going to win. Some of the ones I'm leaning towards a loss. We can win depending on what goes on with the injuries, what happens with these other teams. So this is not going to be an easy season, but we will see the character of this team. It'll be I think we're going to know what we got, and we've got to make the playoffs. We've got to. And I'm fine if we can, in the season like this, we can make the playoffs again. Just win one. And then next year with all those picks, Greer and McDaniel and Weaver and Tua, they can all prove that they are the right guys because you've got to have success next year. If we don't have success this year, it's going to put so much pressure on next year. But we got to see. Long way from here to there. We've got tons of talent. We're a wide zone, finesse passing team. Can we do it with these kind of elements, with these kind of teams? If we could do it this year, then I think we could do it anywhere. Anyway, get ready. I'm very excited. Hopefully Greer brings in a few more pieces on this offensive line and maybe another big DT and these cheap vets. That will go a long way. X money is coming soon. Of course, we got to see what happens with Tua and all that other stuff. Anyway, guys, get ready for a big season. I'm very excited. Very, very excited. Inside running, third down and short. It's going to play critical. I really believe that. I still believe the same evaluation I've had for the last few years is going to play out this year. But we'll see. I'm hopeful. I'm praying. I'm getting ready. Curtis saying, thanks for stopping by. As my daughter wants me to say, Curtis out. Go Fins. 2024. Go Fins. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with AceBread.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.